Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah Kodash. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. All right, let me just share the screen here. All right, so all right, this is basically going to be a continuation, all right, of Daniel the 11th chapter, and dealing with the 18th verse, really the 18th and the 19th verse. Okay, last time we left off on the 17th verse. All right, dealing with Antiochus the third. All right, the great, and Ptolemy the fifth Epiphanes. All right, and basically in the 17th verse, all right, it goes into how Antiochus, basically comes. All right, and he ends up giving his daughter Cleopatra, all right, to Ptolemy, which they were both young, all right, basically to marry Ptolemy with the intention that he could, have Ptolemy as like a puppet ruler, under him through his daughter. However, as it says, she shall not stand on his side. All right, it didn't go that way. All right, so dealing with verse 18. All right, after this, actually, I'm going to read it. This is Daniel chapter 11, verse 18. It says, "After this shall he turn his face onto the isles, and shall take many, but a prince for his own behalf shall cause the reproach offered by him to cease. Without his own reproach, he shall cause it to turn upon him." All right, now this is referring unto Antiochus the third. All right, so it says, "After this shall he turn his face onto the isle." So his initial sights were set on Egypt. All right, but after that, marrying his daughter to Ptolemy, and so on and so forth, it says he shall turn his face onto the isles. All right, dealing with the islands. Okay, going off the coast of Asia Minor. All right, I always get this name messed up, but let's see, Cyadic Islands. All right, the Cyclades. All right, as it has it here. So let's take a look at that. All right, because the word isles simply refers to island. All right, and then also going towards Greece. All right, so you can see these different islands here in the Aegean. All right, going towards Greece and so on and so forth. All right, so that's basically where Antiochus started focusing his attention, taking because Ptolemy had certain he had control over certain of those areas. All right, so Antiochus then starts to conquer some of that. All right, and then eventually made his way, up into certain parts of Greece. All right, but as it says here, and shall take many. All right, he ended up, taking a lot of these different lands over. But a prince for his own behalf shall cause the reproach offered by him to cease. All right, now to make it easier to understand, if you look at the different translations, for example, the NLT, for example, says, "After this, he will turn his attention to the coastland and conquer many cities." All right, and once again, this he is dealing with Antiochus the third. All right, now it says, "But a commander from another land will put an end to his insolence and cause him to retreat in shame." Okay, so that prince, for his own behalf, causing the reproach offered by him to cease, was the Romans. All right, now more specifically, when we go into the secular history, you're going to see it. Ultimately, when they caused Antiochus to retreat out of Europe, out of Greece, all right, back to Asia Minor, there was this war, all right, which Antiochus went to war with Rome, all right, and he ended up losing that war, and he had to sign what was known as the Treaty of Apamea, all right, which is a important treaty to know because it also comes into play later on. All right, so Antiochus gets stopped by this Roman general, okay, and that's why it says he shall cause the reproach offered by him to cease, okay. And as you can see in the NLT, it says here, put an end to his insolence and cause him to retreat in shame, because that's what they did, being that Antiochus lost. All right, now verse 19 says, "Then he shall turn his face toward the fort of his own land," because Antiochus being in east, all right, let's say more east past here, all right, Him conquering these islands, going up into Europe, and so on and so forth, into Greece. That's westward. Okay, so after he got pushed back, he got pushed back more eastward, back to Antioch, and where his actual territory, all right, originally was. Okay, the fort of his own land. It says, but he shall stumble and fall and not be found. All right, that's going into when he actually died. Okay, so now we're gonna go into the secular history, all right, and link it up to give a bit more details. Okay, so now when you go to the Fifth Syrian War, all right, at the end of the Fifth Syrian War, it says here that economic troubles led the Ptolemaic government to increase taxation, which in turn fed the nationalist fire in order to focus on the home front. It says Ptolemy signed a conciliatory treaty with Antiochus in 195 BC, leaving the Seleucid king in possession of Coal Syria and agreeing to marry Antiochus's daughter Cleopatra I. All right, so now this is done. Okay, so now we're gonna go here to Antiochus. All right, we're gonna go down to war against Rome and death. All right, and so it says Antiochus then moved to Asia Minor. Okay, remember it said that what he was gonna turn his face onto the Isles. Okay, it says by land and by sea to secure the coast towns which belonged to the remnants of Ptolemaic overseas dominions and independent Greek cities. All right. So he started in Asia Minor, but he didn't stop there. So it says this enterprise earned him the antagonism of the Roman Republic. It says since Smyrna and Lampsacus appealed to the Republic, which at the time acted as a defender of Greek freedom. So Antiochus is coming up, taking these lands. All right, these people here appeal to the Roman Republic. All right, so now Rome has to step in. So it says the tension grew when Antiochus in 196 BC established a footing in Thrace. All right, so now if you don't know where that is, I'm gonna pull it up for you. All right, Thrace map. Okay, so as you can see, all right, as you can see, you have Thrace right here. If only I could get a better. All right, there we go. Okay. All right, so you have Turkey right here, you have the Aegean, you have Greece, and you have Thrace right here. Okay. So it says he established a footing in Thrace. All right, now it says the evacuation of Greece by the Romans gave Antiochus his opportunity, and he now had the fugitive Hannibal at his court to urge him on. Because Hannibal ended up fleeing, after the Punic Wars and so on and so forth. And so now he ends up joining forces with Antiochus III. Okay. And so that's, Antiochus now, he has a footing in Thrace. All right. He's conquering, these different lands. He's expanding his empire. Okay. And along with the help of Hannibal. All right. So it says in 192 BC, Antiochus invaded Greece with a 10,000 man army and was elected the commander in chief of the Aetolian League. All right, now when you look this up, it says the Aetolian League was a confederation of tribal communities and cities in ancient Greece, centered in Aetolia, in central Greece. It was probably established during the early Hellenistic era because, for a period of time before, Philip, the Philip of Macedon and Alexander the Greek, came up into place and started putting things together. These Greek, these Greeks used to live in city states. It was like this community here, so on and so forth. But they weren't really unified, all right, as an empire. So nonetheless, Antiochus now is elected as commander in chief of the Aetolian League. All right, he's invaded Greece. He has a footing in Thrace. Okay, so he's all up everywhere. All right, remember it says that he was gonna set his face to the Isles and he was gonna take many. Now, what happens after he does this? It says in 191 BC, however, the Romans under Manius Acilius Glabrio routed him at Thermopylae, forcing him to withdraw to Asia Minor. Okay, what does it say? But a prince for his own behalf shall cause the reproach offered by him to cease. Okay, now it didn't stop there. Okay, it says, all right, Asia Minor, right? So it says the Romans followed up their success by invading Anatolia, all right, which is Turkey. So that'll be getting up in here because remember, Rome is still expanding, okay, but now they get the chance to now get crossing over to now get up into Anatolia, all right, which is the same as Turkey. Okay, so it says, and the decisive victory of Scipio Asiaticus. All right, so you had a general named Scipio, however you want to call it, Asiaticus, who went to war with Antiochus at the Battle of Magnesia. Okay, as we're seeing here, and the Romans ended up winning. That's how they were able to cause the reproach offered by Antiochus to cease. All right, so it says at Magnesia, ad Ciplium, it says 190 BC, following the defeat of Hannibal at seaside or sea offside, delivered Asia Minor into their hands. So now the Romans now had power or authority in Asia Minor. Once again, they're still expanding. So now it says by the Treaty of Apamea, all right, in 188 BC, Antiochus abandoned all the country north and west of the Taurus, most of which, now when you look up the Taurus, right, he basically had to give up a lot of his territory that he had conquered. All right. So what you can see here, okay, is a map, all right, of Anatolia, and you can see the Taurus Mountain is here, all right, or the Taurus Mountains is over here. So they, according to the Treaty of Apamea, right, Antiochus had to abandon all the country north and west of the Taurus. All right, so everything northwest, all right, northwest of this area. So this whole area right here, he had to abandon all that. He had to give it up. Now it doesn't stop there, but it says most of which the Roman Republic gave either to Rhodes or to the Attalid ruler Eumenes II. Its allies, many Greek cities, were left free. As a consequence of this blow to the Seleucid power, the outlying provinces of the empire, recovered by Antiochus, reasserted their independence. So you had certain areas that were taken over by Antiochus, but because of this loss that he took, they basically took it as an opportunity to take gain their independence and say, hey, we're breaking off from under you. All right, it says Antiochus mounted a fresh eastern expedition in Luristan, where he died while pillaging a temple of Bel at Elamias, Persia, in 187 BC. All right, so when you read in Daniel 11 and 19, it tells you that he was going to turn his face towards the fort of his own land, but he shall stumble and fall and not be found, because he ended up dying. All right, so verse 19 is the end of Antiochus III. All right, and then in 20 on down, it goes into his son, all right, who comes up next. Now, I want to deal with the Treaty of Apamea, all right, because it's very important that you know what this is, all right. Now, because Antiochus lost, all right, because Antiochus lost that war against Rome, and he had to sign this treaty, all right, of Apamea, okay, it says here that the Treaty of Apamea was a peace treaty on 188 BC between the Roman Republic and Antiochus III, ruler of the Seleucid Empire. It took place after the Romans' victory in the Battle of Thermopylae in 191 BC. This is a different Battle of Thermopylae, all right, not the one where the Persians went against the Greeks, all right, or the Spartans. This is different because it's still the same area, but it's a different battle. It says in the Battle of Magnesia, all right, so you had the Battle of Thermopylae, then you had the Battle of Magnesia, and he got defeated both times. It says, and after Roman and Rhodian naval victories over the Seleucid navy. The treaty, according to Appian, obliged Antiochus III to abandon Europe altogether and all of Asia west of the Taurus Mountains. So that was a lot of territory that he had to give up. It says also he had to surrender all the war elephants in his possession and was limited to 12 warships for the purpose of keeping his subjects under control. But he was, it says, but he was allowed to build more if he was attacked. Antiochus was barred from recruiting mercenaries from Roman territory and entertaining fugitives from the same. So if there was a fugitive from Roman territory, he couldn't house them. Antiochus had to give 20 hostages. All right, now this is important. Antiochus had to give 20 hostages, whom the Roman consul would select. All right, and the consul was basically like the man that they committed the government to at the time. Okay, it says the hostages should be changed every third year, except the son of Antiochus. Okay, so he had to give up 20 hostages, but among those 20 hostages, he had to give up his son. One of his son had to be one of those hostages, namely him that would be heir. All right, if I'm not mistaken. So Antiochus now has to give up one of his sons. All right, because Antiochus the third had more than one son, but he had to give up one of his sons to be a hostage at Rome. Okay, he had to give up one of his sons to be a hostage at Rome, and that would leave the other one who would then become the heir. Now, as a matter of fact, let me just pull up the precept. All right, due to this treaty of Apamea, Antiochus the third's son, all right, Mithridates, and or otherwise known as Antiochus Epiphanes, okay, was held hostage at Rome. All right, so now let's see if we can find it here. Notes in the Apocrypha. There we go. All right, now this is the book of First Maccabees, chapter 1. Okay, and we're gonna go to verse 8, right? So now dealing with the Treaty of Apamea, so Antiochus now has to give up land. All right, he can't, have a certain surpass a certain number of warships. Now he also has to give up 20 hostages, and he also had to give up his son as one of them. All right, whom the Roman consul would select. Okay, and he had to give up his son as one of them. So we're gonna get the account, all right, of it here. Now this is the book of First Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 8. It says, "And his servants bear rule, everyone in his place." This is going into the servants of Alexander, the Greek. Verse 9, "And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves." So, and that's why you had Ptolemy, king of Egypt, Seleucus, Lysimachus, Cassander. They were all kings in their respective regions. It says, "So did their sons after them many years." So you had the Seleucid Empire, the Ptolemaic dynasty, however, all right, because it was a dynasty, they would pass it on to their sons. It says, "And evils were multiplied in the earth." Verse 10, "And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes." So that Antiochus Epiphanes came out of one of those servants or those generals, all right, which would have been the Seleucid line, okay? Because you had Seleucus the first, Nicator, then you had Antiochus the first, I believe it was Soter, followed by Antiochus the second, Theos, okay? And then, you had Seleucus the second, you had Seleucus the third, and Antiochus the third, which we're at right now, okay? And then Antiochus the third ends up having who? Antiochus the fourth, Epiphanes, as well as Seleucus the fourth, Philopater. But we're going to deal with him at another time, right? So verse 10 here says, "And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king." See, so, and this shows you that Antiochus isn't really a name; it's just more of like a title, like you have Pharaoh and so on and so forth. Because if you don't know that, you'll see this and get a little tripped up because you'll say, "Hold on, Antiochus was the son of Antiochus. How can he be his own son?" Different people. This Antiochus the king is the one that we're currently talking about right now, Antiochus the third. Okay, so now it says, I'm gonna read it again. "And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the great." I mean, Antiochus the king, or Antiochus the great, or Antiochus the third, "who had been an hostage at Rome." Okay, so Epiphanes was a hostage at Rome, right? It says, and he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. So why was Antiochus Epiphanes an hostage at Rome? Okay, that goes back to the Treaty of Apamea, because his father had to give up 20 hostages, but one of the hostages that he had to give up was his son. So Antiochus Epiphanes, being the son of Antiochus III, who lost and had to agree to this treaty, guess what? He gave up his son Epiphanes to be a hostage at Rome. Okay. So continuing on in the Treaty of Apamea, it says the hostages should be changed every third year, except the son of Antiochus. In the future, he would maintain no elephants and pay for the cost of the present war incurred on his account, 500 Eubonic talents down to 2,500 more when the Roman Senate ratified the treaty, and 12,000 more during 12 years, uh, each yearly installment to be delivered to Rome. So now there was a war indemnity that he had to pay. So guess what? When he died, that transferred on to what? His son. Okay. And that cycle of giving up your son to be a hostage, that kept on going. Okay. So it says he was also forced to surrender all prisoners and deserters to his enemies and to Eumenes II, the king of Pergamon, whatever remains of the possessions he acquired by his agreement with Attalus I, the father of Eumenes. All right. So that's pretty much it on the Treaty of Apamea. All right. These are the conditions that Antiochus now had to be subject to after losing that. Okay, and this is important because it's going to come up later in the chapter to explain, certain other things as well. Okay, but that's pretty much covered it on verse 18 and 19. Okay, once again, is dealing with Antiochus the third. All right, who then sets his attention towards Asia Minor, towards Thrace, towards Greece. All right, and as he gets there, they appeal to Rome, and Rome sends their generals. All right, to come and that's that prince for his own behalf, and they come and they push back Antiochus. At the Battle of Thermopylae and at the Battle of Magnesia. He ends up losing that, and he ends up having to sign or agree to the Treaty of Apamea, which we just read, as a peace treaty. Okay, and so he now has to return. He has to give up all the lands. All right, and then verse 19 says what? He shall turn his face toward the fort of his own land. All right, but he shall stumble and fall and not be found. And that's basically him dying. Okay, as we read that as well. Okay, so that's pretty much it for these two verses. All right, Lord's will, the spirit permits, I'll come back, next time and continue it on. All right. So with that, I hope you were edified. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakha Kodesh. Until next time, Shalom.